Hey gang, just want to take a second of your time here to give a shout out to our friend of the show, Cody Walker, who composed our and performed our theme here that you hear every time you listen to an episode of Neuse Little Podcast. He has an album out and it's called Demography, and it is available exclusively on Spotify. So if you are a subscriber to the podcast and use it on Spotify, why don't you type in Demography and give that album a check out? Because Cody was kind enough to do our music for free, and we want to help him in any way we can because he is a very talented artist, and he is also from the Smithfield, North Carolina area. He is a graduate of West Johnston High School, so this is a local guy. So give it a listen. It's kind of like a John Denver, easy listening, man with a guitar on a stool just performing good songs. Check it out. Greetings, Neuse Little Pod listeners. This is your host, Matt Gore, reminding you to please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast on your available podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and any other podcast app you can think of. Share our episodes on Facebook and let us know what you think with a comment or review. Now, please enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast, an audio program discussing the almost 50-year history of Neuse Little Theatre and the backstage antics and stories that come along with running a community theater in a small town. I'm your host, Matt Gore, and we are coming to you from NLT's stage and base of operations, the little log cabin located on the banks of the Neuse River in Smithfield, North Carolina. We lovingly refer to it as the Hut. Hello, Neuse Little Pod listeners. We're back for another episode of your favorite podcast about community theater. Now, our guest tonight is no one. We do not have a guest tonight. It is Mita and I riding solo. We are going to talk about our new season. We've done our perspective series on other outside theaters in the Eastern North Carolina area that are doing their seasons. Now it's time for our season. And as we go along in the year, we're going to get a more focus on these shows as they roll around. But right now, it's just a brief overview of what we're going to do in our 47th season.
Yes, 47.
Gotcha. And we'll just give you an idea of what we're going to do in this upcoming season. As you know, just like every other community theater and professional theater and regional theater in 2020, we had to shut down in March or April when the pandemic rolled around. And we had two shows that we never got a chance to perform in our 46th season. So we are going to transfer those shows over into our 47th season. So the first two shows you might have heard of before. And we're going to start with talking about the show that is coming up in September. It's going to be directed by Stephanie Viren, who we've had on the show before. And it's called Never Too Late. Now, who wrote that?
That would be written by Sumner Author Long.
Okay, now what's this show about?
It is a comedy. It's about a man, he's been married, he's in his 50s, and he suddenly learns he's going to be a father again. I could just read the synopsis, but it's easier if I tell you, kind of. He has a daughter who's 24, it's their only child, and she is married, and they live at home with her parents. And he suddenly realizes his wife doesn't feel well, and so she goes to the doctor, and she comes back, and she realizes she is pregnant. Very, very late in life. It's a very late in life pregnancy. And he realizes that his daughter's not the... If the new baby turns out like his daughter, he's in trouble, basically, because she lounges around the house all day, and the husband's kind of a nitwit, and he plays solitaire all hours of the day and night, and he actually works with him at the lumber yard, but...
He doesn't want to raise her child, basically.
Exactly. You find out he does love her, and he's excited about the baby by the end of it. But
so it has a happy ending.
Yes.
Shocking. So after that, you don't even need to come see the show. No, I'm just kidding. That was a good breakdown of the show. And now, the reason that I'm excited about this show is because it has a stacked cast. Now, this cast, with one or two exceptions, was the same cast that was in place when they shut down. I think they were maybe a week or two, maybe 3 into rehearsals, and everything just got... So, most of the people are coming back, with one or two exceptions. And that cast is going to be Tony Pender, Nancy Gibbs, Mary Lee Hamilton, Sean Braswell, Patsy Castellano. We've had all those people on the show, as well as Rick Hardnon, Scott Newell, who I don't know as well, but I hear is very good, and Stephen Roberts, excuse me, who refuses to come on the show. So don't worry, I'm gonna get him on here. If I have to wear like a wire just to get an interview with Stephen, I'm gonna do it. But we'll see. I'm gonna have to get creative. Now
It'll be about 14 minutes long where he complains the entire time. We have to cut it all out.
Thanks for that interview, Stephen. I can use none of that footage. Thank you. Appreciate that. So now that show is going up when?
In September 17th and 18th at 8 o'clock. September 19th, that would be our Sunday matinee at 3. And September 24th and 25th at 8 o'clock.
Now, as I said before, we will get more in-depth on Never Too Late when it rolls around. But we want to give you guys just a heads up as to what's coming. Now, for the next one.
This is Matt's baby.
It's kind of our baby, to be honest. This is my baby, Mina Toole's baby, and Greg Hill's baby. This is one we've had in our heads for 2+ years. Now, I want to, we'll tell it when it comes back around, but briefly, we had a crazy night in Wilmington where we got pulled over by cops, and Stephen got into a verbal fight with the waitress at Denny's. But we also went to Wilmington to see this play, and this play is called The Explorers Club by Nell Benjamin. And that little theater that I can never remember the name of,
Big Dog Productions.
they did an excellent job. It was a little theater, smaller than ours, I would say about 50 max. And it's like they were all the same audience, and it was just like we were the new people. Like they could tell, like, oh, there's new people here. So it was an interesting theater. Terrible part of town, but you know what? It was a really interesting theater, and I would have them on if we could get them there. They were an interesting little group. They were trying to move. I hope they did. Anyway, so we went to go see the Explorers Club that night, and basically we wanted to see this show because this has been on our radar for a while as a really, really funny show. It's basically Downton Abbey meets Monty Python. That's a pretty good mix. You know, it's a very ridiculous comedy involving British people, very upper class. Tell us about it, Mina. What you got the synopsis? Go ahead and bring it down for us.
Well, it is set in London in 1879, so the costume is going to be spectacular. It's the official synopsis is the prestigious Explorers Club is in a crisis. Their acting president wants to admit a woman, and their bartender is terrible. True, this female candidate is brilliant, beautiful, and has discovered the legendary lost city. But the decision to let a woman into the club could shake the very foundation of the British Empire. And how do you make such a decision without a decent drink? Grab your safety goggles for some very mad science involving deadly cobras, irate Irishmen, and the occasional airship.
Yes. Now, I am directing this play, and I'm very excited about this play because I've wanted to do it for a while. And I was sad when it got canceled, obviously, because of the pandemic. But I was also, the other part of me was okay with it, and here's the reason why. I know I wanted to wait until we had the right time to do it. Like, I didn't want to do this as like a 30% audience or a 50% audience. I'm like, no. This script deserves a full rollout, all the bells and whistles. Nell Benjamin wrote a great script, and I need as many people to see it as possible because I believe this will be on the Rolodex it's a new-ish script, I would say 5 years old, and it's going to be on the list for potential plays in our area. So I want as many people to see our version as possible. So, and basically how we have it is, Mita, you're in charge of the set, and yes, we'll get more in depth in all this later on when the show actually rolls around in November. So, we wanted to go a little bit more detailed here. Let's give the audience just a small hint of what might be on this crazy stage for the Explorers Club.
Well, thanks to Mr. Greg Hill, who apparently has way too much time on his hands.
Mad scientist Greg Hill.
I made the offhanded remark that I would love to have a blah, or I would love this to be on that set. It would make it so awesome. And he The very first thing I said was, I would love to have elephant tusks. And he went and made some elephant tusks. And they are awesome.
That's right. Those fake elephant tusks will be on full display on our set. It's kind of like the set's going to be like Theodore Roosevelt's wet dream. You know, it's just going to be like skins on the wall and hunters and manly men doing manly things and science.
It's definitely going to look like men.
Yes, it will be dripping with testosterone, and then, oh no, there's this woman that comes in and ruins everything, but actually, you know, brings more to the group than...
I was going to say, she's probably the smartest one.
Absolutely.
Of everybody, yeah.
No. That is established early on. These are all buffoons, and this smart lady comes in and changes everything for the better. It's a wonderful piece.
Yeah, the woman comes in, and she's found this lost city, and she brings along with her one of the lost... members.
Mahatlabong of the Mahatlabong tribe, and they're like a fake tribe, and they're blue. So think like Avatar, the Na'vi from Avatar, only human, but they're blue. That's exactly how they look.
And then the problem is he doesn't know the ways of the English, and it gets them into some trouble, and shenanigans ensue. Basically, it's very slapstick. It's very funny, and it's quite entertaining. And the theologian gets the Irishmen upset with him, so there's a horde of Irishmen who are after them, and then the English army's after them for a while, and it becomes a big to-do because of everything sort of snowballs after a while.
I don't want to talk about it too much more because I get excited and I'll give all the little surprises away.
Yeah, I'm trying not to say too much.
Yes.
So, because there's a lot that goes on.
There's going to be a lot of work put into, as with every single show in our season, there's going to be a lot of work put into this show.
This one's a lot more physical comedy than we usually do, so it's going to require quite a bit of special rehearsals. So.
Yes. If you are auditioning for this, you should be, if you are a man auditioning for the show or whatever you identify as, you should be able to catch. You need to be able to catch. I'm just going to throw that out there. You need to be able to catch something small in your hands. All right, moving on.
It's not weird at all.
I know, really. There's something involving the play where you have to catch something maybe the size of a glass in your hand very quickly. So that would be nice if you could do that, is what I mean.
And that one's going to be in November.
Yes, it opens on my birthday, November 12th.
Yep.
November 12th, 13th, 14th, the matinee. And
19th and 20th.
Yes, very much looking forward to the Explorers Club.
And there's not a lot of shows that are this way. I did Battle of Shallowford years ago, but this one is definitely one. There's 8 men and 1 woman, and that 10th character is going to be your show, your set, because it's just it's going to be its own.
Yes, it'll be
creation, basically.
Yes, it'll be something to behold. Oh, I don't want to give too much away.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. We got to do the work first. We got to do the work. Okay, now moving on. Now this one, a lot of you have heard of. Whenever someone picks up a brochure for our 47th season, they're going, "Oh, I know this one." So, and this one also features a lot of kids, which I know will please the parents out there. Yes, this show features children, mostly boys, I guess.
Children, but young teenagers.
Okay,
yes.
fair enough. Young teenagers. And most of you have heard of the movie, and that is the classic young adult novel adaptation of The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. And who wrote the adaptation?
It was adapted by Christopher Sergel.
All right. So our own Tony Pinder is directing this one. And it's very interesting. I did not know there was an adaptation of this show out there, and so when I saw it, my eyebrows raised too. I'm like, "Wow, the Explorers, the Outsider, excuse me." And so, tell us a little bit about it.
I'll read the synopsis because it's easier than me trying to remember the movie.
So this guy is in the Navy, right? And he's like a hot young pilot. His nickname is Maverick. You know, and so he's up in the F-14. And some people even call him a Top Gun. So, no, wait.
That's the wrong one.
Oh.
Although I think Tom Cruise was in the movie.
Yes.
The stage adaptation deals with real people seen through the eyes of young pony boy, a greaser on the wrong side of life, caught up in territorial battles between the habit-made rich kids, the Socs, and his tough, underprivileged greaser family and friends. While the Socs appear to have everything, the only thing a greaser has is his friends. As these young people try to find themselves and each other, as the sadness of sophistication begins to reach them and their battles and relationships reach a resolution. This is a play about young people who are not yet hopeless about latent decency in the midst of a struggle. Basically, it's a tale as old as time. Basically, you have the haves and the have-nots, and they're constantly at battle. The same sort of, what's the word? The class, battles that you have in West Side Story and Romeo and Juliet, and there's a love interest of the two on each side, and they, you've got good people on both sides, you have bad people on both sides, and you just realize that the only thing that separates them is money. But everybody's a person, basically.
Gotcha. So this one's going to require, this is going to be a more young crowd, and it's going to probably, the fight's got to be in the script, right? The fight's in the script, the big fight at the end?
I don't know. It's been a long time since I read the script.
I remember that was one of the movies, we could watch safely, I guess, in like middle school and high school, whenever there was like a day towards the end of the year where we didn't have much to do.
Yeah. There's a really good quote, and I can't remember it verbatim. So
Stay golden, pony boy.
Stay golden.
So, and when is that going to be, Mita?
Outsiders will be in February 18th, 19th. The matinee is on the 20th, and February 25th and 26th.
All right. So moving on, we have a comedy next, another comedy. So This one's called Till Beth Do Us Part. Now, who's this one by? I always screw this one up and think it's a Jones Hope Wooten, but it's not.
It is a Jones Hope Wooten.
I'm like, what? All right, it is a Jones Hope Wooten.
No, it's the other one that you're always thinking is a Jones Hope Wooten.
Which one?
The one in Goldsboro.
Oh, over the river and through the woods. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
It took me a minute to remember which one it was. You always got wrong. That was that one. No, this one is a Jones Hope Wooten.
Sometimes I get the play titles mixed up. For the longest time, I called the Dixie Swim Club the Dixie Swim Chicks. I couldn't get it right no matter what I did. All right, sorry. Okay, so Till Beth Do Us Part is by the America's favorite, according to their website, America's favorite comedy writing trio, Jones Hope Wooten.
Yep, and we've done a lot of stuff. A lot of theaters have done their stuff. It's very funny. Mm-hmm. This one is the one. Some of their stuff is very thoughtful and sweet, and those tend to be your all-female cast. For some reason, they really have some very deep stuff in their all-female cast stuff. But this one tends to be a little more on the silly side, more in the vein of Red Velvet Cake War, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, but career-driven Savannah Hayden needs a lot more help on the home front than she's getting from her husband, Gibby. Lately, nurturing his marriage of 27 years hasn't been the highest priority for Gibby, but pretty soon he'll wish it had been. Beth Bailey, Savannah's newly hired assistant, a gregarious, highly motivated daughter of the South, explodes into the Hayden household and whips it into an organized, well-run machine. As Susanna's dependence on Beth grows, Beth decides that Gibby must go, and Gibby sets out to save his marriage.
And I sometimes I do like the tongue-in-cheek jokes about Jones Hope Wooten, but in all seriousness, if you're a small group and you don't have a lot of resources, those are the scripts you should do to grow, in order to grow and be able to do the other stuff. They're tailor-made for that type of venue.
They usually have a simple set, usually a one-unit set, or maybe a couple of little pull-outs here and there. But overall, it's usually just one unit set, and it's usually fairly simple. And they're crowd pleasers. People love them. They'll show up because they're funny.
Yes. And Double Wide Texas, the one I directed, had people laughing all the way through it. They love it. They love it. Do I want to do it every single time? No, but But they're money makers. There's no doubt about it.
And they're good palate cleansers. I mean, that's the reason why we kind of put it after Outsiders, because we knew Outsiders was going to be heavy. So Till Beth Do This Part will be a nice breather, after we do something fairly heavy. So
yeah, and it's good that we try to have a flow to the season. It's not just like whatever's next, and that's very much something we think about. All right, so to close it out.
Wait, and that one's in April.
Oh, sorry.
That'll be April 8th, 9th, and 10th, and April 15th and 16th.
All right. And our last one here. This is you're going to be directing this one.
This would be mine. Mm-hmm. We're going to be doing the trip to Bountiful.
Was this a movie?
It has been a couple of movies. Well, a movie and a miniseries, I think.
Okay.
My father, Fred Toole, actually requested this show. That's the reason why it sort of came up in the discussion of doing shows. It's a sweet little nostalgic show. There was a 1985 movie, and I could not tell you off the top of my head who it was in it. And then it was redone and brought back to stage and filmed as a mini series, I believe, with Cicely Tyson, Vanessa Williams, and in the mini series, I think Cuba Gooding Jr.
Geraldine Page was in it.
Yes.
In the 1985 movie, along with John Hurd. The recently passed away John Hurd. He was the dad in Home Alone. That's what he's most known for.
Yes. It's about a woman named Carrie Watts. She's older. She lives with her son and daughter-in-law, and she gets assistance, and the daughter-in-law, they don't really think she can do anything. And all she wants to do is go back home where she was from, to Bountiful, and to see it one last time. And they keep kind of, I always they keep her in the apartment with them in like Houston or whatever it is they're at. But it sounds like she's being kidnapped, but that's not true. They worry about her and don't want her to wander off, basically. So she ends up stealing her Social Security check and hides it from them so they can't put it in the bank. And she decides she's going to make a break for it, and she grabs a bus. And she gets on the bus, and she's going to Bountiful, but there's no bus to Bountiful. She can either get off on the town before it or the town after it. And what she finds is Bountiful is not what she remembers it to be, because time marches on, basically. Because she goes off and she goes to the bus station, and she meets a young girl at the bus station, and they chat, and she meets these people along the way. And so it's just about adventuring out on her own, kind of a thing, and realizing that maybe the people back home do love her, kind of a deal. So. Yeah.
Interesting. So when's that going up, Mita?
That will be in May and June. So it'll be May 27th, 28th, and 29th, and then June 3rd and 4th.
Gotcha. All right. That sounds like an excellent season for our 47th trip here at NLT. And we can't wait to bring those shows to you, folks. Honestly, we love entertaining the people here. I know that's cheesy, and every theater wants to say that, but man, do we like making y'all laugh, or making y'all cry, or making y'all think. There's a lot of people here who do a lot of work for absolutely free because they love doing it. The passion is there.
Yeah, I do have to say that we are 100% volunteer. Mm-hmm. Not all theaters in the area are. Some theaters in the area have paid positions and things, and our there's a little bit of money for some directors sometimes, but in all, everything that goes on in this stage is purely out of people wanting to help and volunteer to do it. This is all blood, sweat, and tears, basically.
As I said, it's just me and Mita here today, and it's actually kind of nice just to have a show with Mita and Mita where we can just sit back and chat and talk about the things we kind of want to talk about, because we have a few stories too. I was driving down here and I was thinking, like, what could I talk with Mita about after we do the season overview, and and it kind of popped in my head, and you reminded me a couple seconds ago, like Rabbit Hole. We never really got super in depth on Rabbit Hole, and what a kind of a remarkable show that was for several different reasons. Now, I was your assistant director on that one. This was way back in, I want to say 24. Okay, I have it right here. Briefly tell us about what Rabbit Hole by David Lindsay Abair is about.
Rabbit Hole is the story of a married couple who have lost their 4-year-old son about 8 months prior. He was hit when he ran out into the road chasing the family dog. And a teenager just happened to be riding down the street and didn't see him dart out between the cars and hit him and killed him. And you join the story about 8 months into the grieving process. And the fascinating part of the story is 8 months is not enough time for parents to grieve for a child, but the world continues to turn and life carries on, and there's a disconnect there between the life of the people who have lost this person and the life of everyone around them. And it's a story about loss, and it's a story about losing more than just a family member, because people don't know how to talk to you. People don't know how to approach you. People don't know how to help you, if there is a way to help you through the grieving process. And you have the married couple, and they're in different stages of grief between the two of them.
I think when you say each character represents a different type of grief that somebody's manifesting in their psyche.
Right. The wife still wants to. Every time she turns around, there's a something that reminds her of their son Danny, and she begins to clean house. She wants to get rid of everything. She doesn't want to dwell on it. She doesn't want to be reminded. She wants to get rid of things so that she can move forward. And her husband is still in that stage where he rewatches the video that he has of his son to remember who he is, and the fun times and the times they had at the park and things like that. And she has a sister who is terribly foul-mouthed. But her sister has a musician boyfriend, and they are pregnant, and she doesn't know how to tell her sister at first, because, you know, how do you bring up a brand new baby to a woman who's lost hers?
Yeah.
And then her mother, who there's a great scene in it where her mother and she are going through Danny's bedroom so that they can repaint, and she doesn't have to walk into it anymore and see the robots on the walls and things. And her mother and she talk about the fact that her brother died of an overdose, and she says, but he was my brother, it's different. And her mother says, but he was my son, so I understand, you know. And they have this great conversation about how grief doesn't go away, but it gets to be small enough you can put it in your pocket. And sometimes you forget about it until you reach into your pocket and you go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it hits you like a ton of bricks.
And you are reminded of it, and it's something you learn to live with, and you carry around with you forever. And it's a really beautiful moment between the two of them.
The cast of that show was, I mean, I was a part of the crew, so I'm biased, but they were remarkable for several reasons, which we'll get into. But the cast for that show was Jessica Conrad Salyers. She played the mom. Craig Baker played the father. Kiefer William Morris played...
He played the teenager.
The teenager who was inadvertently responsible for running over their son, but it wasn't an intentional or a devious act. It was an accident. And also we had Stephanie Holloman play the foul-mouthed sister, and Rhonda Brocky play the mother. And all remarkable actors and actresses in this show. Great cast. And we were in rehearsal Everything was flowing along nicely.
We were about a week out.
Yeah. It was getting close, and now this was a different type of role for Craig. This was something that was outside of his comfort zone.
Oh yeah, he was the consummate comedian. If it could be made funny, he liked to make it funny.
Yeah.
And that was not how this show was going to work. But he was 110% on board with trying something different, and he was there for us. And
Well, I always felt in the show when I was watching rehearsals, if you read the script and you see Craig's performance, it's not something I immediately saw in the script, but as the rehearsals went on and it evolved, I could see how it kind of worked, because Jessica's emotion, she turned it inward.
Mm-hmm.
It manifested inside her. And then with Craig, I felt how it worked was it kind of manifested physically. He looked a little bit more run down,
right.
a little bit. But we didn't really know what was going on. So I'll let you tell him, you know.
I think it was the Friday before we opened, so it was like a week before. And I got a phone call, and as it turns out, Craig passed away a week before we opened. There was a lot of circumstances around it that none of us realized was going on. Craig...
It was sudden.
Yeah, it was very sudden. And we... Thankfully, I mean, we were all in shock. We were all trying to figure out what we were going to do. I mean...
It sounds cheesy and stupid, but it was, in a weird way, art imitating life. I'm like, now we all have to grieve in a weird way.
Right.
Because we were all doing this for 5 weeks, and now all of a sudden, the air has been sucked out of the room.
Right.
You know?
And how... Craig had been such a major part of the theater for so long that how do you honor him except to go forward?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, and I know it's a cliche, the show must go on, but that's, for theater people, that's the best way
It was never a question for you?
to push through. I don't think so. I don't remember exactly. I just knew we had to replace him if we were going to move forward, and we were going to have to make a decision on what we were going to do. You know, I mean, I know it seems cold-hearted for me to go, yeah, this, you know, you have to do the show, but I don't know that I would have. I don't know if there was an option other than that, because what are you going to do, wallow?
Yeah, I don't
You
think. I don't think there was another option. I don't think it was ever a question. I was like, well, we're going to do the show. We all have to deal with our own shit right now.
Right.
But we're going to have to put on this show one way or another.
And and Aaron Young, God love him,
Yep.
stepped right in.
He played John Proctor in The Crucible. You had worked with him before. You knew he was
Yep.
reliable. You knew he was good. So you gave him a call.
I called him, and I once I knew what had happened with Craig, I was on the phone, calling around, seeing who was available, who would be willing, who would be comfortable doing it. And Aaron said yes, and he came and did it. And we decided we didn't have a whole lot of reservations. It's a very heavy show, and we didn't have a lot of reservations for that first weekend or any at that point. And so we decided to postpone, and we opened and did one weekend for the show.
To give him an extra week of rehearsal.
To give him an extra week of rehearsal. And quite honestly, he stepped in so... He took it on so... I don't know the word I want.
Well, I remember this specifically. This is my most vivid memory of the entire thing. Because that first rehearsal where Aaron came in as the character, and he had already been working on the lines, and we started naturally at the beginning, and you were like, all right, let's just walk it through, take it easy, and Jessica just, God love her, she couldn't switch it in her mind that fast that Craig's not here anymore, now Aaron is. And that was not Aaron's fault in any way. And I think he knew that.
Right. No.
He's smart enough to know that. He's a good enough actor to know that. So she had to take a moment, and I remember she called me back there, and she was sad that it wasn't Craig, but also sad that Aaron was so good as Howie. That was the name of his character, Howie.
Right.
And I told her, look, I was like, look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Craig would want us to do the show. His version is his version. Aaron's version is his version. It's just something that, we have to mentally switch. And she did. She did.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know what Aaron would say about it, but the way that the set was built and the way blocking was, it was natural. It was so second nature to move a certain way that I didn't really have to give him a whole lot of movement on stage. He just automatically sort of counterbalanced everybody and moved where he needed to move because it was so, the dialogue and everything seemed natural. It lended itself to wandering this house naturally. And so it ran so smoothly the moment he walked on stage that it was a little disconcerting because it felt like it was just so easy to replace Craig when it wasn't. We were all very, headspace was very, very
it's just
off.
like,
but,
it shouldn't have been this easy.
Yeah.
We felt guilty because of how, but we felt guilty because Aaron was as good as he was.
Right.
And it's not that Craig wasn't good. We all knew Craig was good, but it's a different version than what Aaron's doing, and that's hard to take all at once.
Right.
So
And,
that's all that was. It was a interesting rehearsal, but God, they were such troopers. They brought it all together. It was a great show. Some of the finest work that's been done dramatically since I've been here, some of the finest work that's been done on this stage. And no, it wasn't a box office smash, but it was well attended and it really made you think. So,
And I love the show. Those are the kind of shows I love. I love the meaty, just really good character roles. And that one was brilliant because if you do that show right, it's almost like you've just picked up this tiny piece of time from these people's lives to look at, because it doesn't really have a beginning and it doesn't really have an end. It's just this tiny moment of their lives that they're trying to deal with this, because you're not getting the very moment that the child dies. You're not getting the beginning of the story. And at the end, it's a little up in the air as to how it's all going to turn out.
yeah.
And so it's just a slice of
Right.
this life that these people are living. And they all have their own motivations. They all have their own demons they're trying to deal with. And it was a great show. I loved it. I mean, I didn't like all the stuff that was going on around it, but I loved that. I love that show. And I think it doesn't get done enough just because it's such a beautiful show.
I think we got closer over that show. I remember I was just like, I don't care what, I'm in Mita's corner, whatever she wants to do. And I remember just like, this goes beyond just being in a play and then it felt like a real kind of cathartic family moment.
Yeah, and
That was brought together by tragedy, which
Right.
sucks.
And I think we all sort of needed to see it all the way to the end.
Yeah. There would have been such an empty hole if you just didn't do it.
Right.
There would have been a rabbit hole. That's so cheesy. Why did I say that? So stupid. All right. I think we're going to put a pin in it there. And until next time, we will probably have, starting with our next episode, we're going to get back to the people at Neuse Little Theatre, the faces you see around here when you come see shows, so some recognizable ones. And we look forward to hearing from those people. And more about Never Too Late, that's going to come up in September. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going for us here at Neuse, and we can't wait to show it to you. So, for Mita Toole and I, we'll see you later. Credits for the show. Your host and creator is Matt Gore. That's me. My producer and editor is Mita Toole.
That's me.
Music is by Cody Walker. Please go look up Cody on Cody Walker Music on YouTube, and he's also on Cody Walker Music on Facebook as well. He's local, so and he's got a couple of albums out. Easy listening, John Denver type of guitar voice. That Cody Walker. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.